2014 international military presence in Afghanistan. Despite gains toward building a stable central government, the Taliban remains a serious challenge for the Afghan government in almost every province. The Taliban still considers itself the rightful government of Afghanistan, and it remains a capable and confident insurgent force despite its last two spiritual leaders being killed. It continues to declare that it will pursue a peace deal with Kabul only after foreign military forces depart. Afghanistan Summary, Adobe PDF, Hide, Geography, Afghanistan Panel, Expanded, Location. This entry identifies the country's regional location, neighboring countries, and adjacent bodies of water. Location field listing, Southern Asia, north and west of Pakistan, east of Iran. Geographic coordinates. This entry includes rounded latitude and longitude figures for the centroid or center point of a country expressed in degrees and minutes. It is based on the locations provided in the Geographic Names Server, GNS, maintained by the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency on behalf of the U.S. Board on Geographic Names. Geographic coordinates field listing, 3300N, 6500E. Map references. This entry includes the name of the factbook reference map on which a country may be found. Note that boundary representations on these maps are not necessarily authoritative. The entry on geographic coordinates may be helpful in finding some smaller countries. Map references field listing, Asia, area. This entry includes three subfields. Total area is the sum of all land and water areas delimited by international boundaries and/or coastlines. Land area is the aggregate of all surfaces delimited by international boundaries and/or coastlines, excluding inland water bodies, lakes, reservoirs, rivers. Water area is the sum of the surfaces of all inland water bodies, such as lakes, reservoirs, or rivers, as delimited by international boundaries and/or coastlines. Area field listing, total, 652,230 square kilometers. Land, 652,230 square kilometers. Water, 0 square kilometers. Country comparison to the world, 42. Area, comparative. This entry provides an area comparison based on total area equivalents. Most entities are compared with the entire US or one of the 50 states based on area measurements. 1990 revised, provided by the US Bureau of the Census. The smaller entities are compared with Washington, D.C., 178 square kilometers, 69 square miles, or the mall in Washington, D.C., 0.59 square kilometers, 0.23 square miles, 146 acres. Area, comparative field listing, almost 6 times the size of Virginia, slightly smaller than Texas. Area comparison map, area comparison map. Land boundaries. This entry contains the total length of all land boundaries and the individual lengths for each of the contiguous border countries. When available, official lengths published by national statistical agencies are used. Because surveying methods may differ, country border lengths reported by contiguous countries may differ. Land boundaries field listing, total, 5,987 kilometers. Border countries, 6, China 91 kilometers, Iran 921 kilometers, Pakistan 2,670 kilometers, Tajikistan 1,357 kilometers, Turkmenistan 804 kilometers, Uzbekistan 144 kilometers. Coastline. This entry gives the total length of the boundary between the land area, including islands, and the sea. Coastline field listing, 0 kilometers, landlocked. Maritime claims. This entry includes the following claims, the definitions of which are excerpted from the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, which alone contains the full and definitive descriptions. Territorial Sea. The sovereignty of a coastal state extends beyond its land territory and internal waters to an adjacent belt of sea, described as the Territorial Sea in the UNCLOS. Part 2. This sovereignty extends to the airspace over the Territorial Sea as well as its. More maritime claims field listing, non-landlocked. Climate. This entry includes a brief description of typical weather regimes throughout the year. Climate field listing, arid to semi-arid, cold winters and hot summers. Terrain. This entry contains a brief description of the topography. Terrain field listing, mostly rugged mountains, plains in north and southwest. Elevation. This entry includes both the mean elevation and the elevation extremes. Elevation field listing, mean elevation, 1,884 meters. Elevation extremes, 258 meters lowest point. Amud area, 7492 highest point. Noshek, natural resources. This entry lists a country's mineral, petroleum, hydropower, and other resources of commercial importance, such as rare earth elements, REs. In general, products appear only if they make a significant contribution to the economy, or are likely to do so in the future. Natural resources field listing: natural gas, petroleum, coal, copper, chromite, talc, barytes, sulfur, lead, zinc, iron ore, salt, precious and semi-precious stones, arable land, land use. This entry contains the percentage shares of total land area for three different types of land use: agricultural land, forest, and other. Agricultural land is further divided into arable land, land cultivated for crops like wheat, maize, and rice that are replanted after each harvest; permanent crops, land cultivated for crops like citrus, coffee, and rubber that are not replanted after each harvest, and includes land under flowering shrubs, fruit trees, nut trees, and vines, and permain. More land use field listing: agricultural land, 58.1%, 2014 est; arable land, 20.5%, 2014 est; permanent crops, 0.37%, 2014 est; permanent pasture, 79%, 2014 est; forest, 2.07%, 2014 est; other, 39.9%, 2014 est. Irrigated land. This entry gives the number of square kilometers of land area that is artificially supplied with water. Irrigated land field listing: 32,080 square kilometers, 2012. Population distribution. This entry provides a summary description of the population dispersion within a country. While it may suggest population density, it does not provide density figures. Population distribution field listing: populations tend to cluster in the foothills and periphery of the rugged Hindu Kush range. Smaller groups are found in many of the country's interior valleys. In general, the east is more densely settled, while the south is sparsely populated. Natural hazards. This entry lists potential natural disasters. For countries where volcanic activity is common, a volcanism subfield highlights historically active volcanoes. Natural hazards field listing: damaging earthquakes occur in Hindu Kush mountains, flooding, droughts. Environment, current issues. This entry lists the most pressing and important environmental problems. The following terms and abbreviations are used throughout the entry: acidification, the lowering of soil and water pH due to acid precipitation and deposition, usually through precipitation. This process disrupts ecosystem nutrient flows and may kill freshwater fish and plants dependent on more neutral or alkaline conditions. See acid rain, characterized as containing harmful levels of sulfur dioxide. More environment, current issues field listing: limited natural freshwater resources, inadequate supplies of potable water, soil degradation, overgrazing, deforestation. Much of the remaining forests are being cut down for fuel and building materials. Desertification, air and water pollution in overcrowded urban areas. Environment, international agreements. This century separates country participation in international environmental agreements into two levels: party to and signed, but not ratified. Agreements are listed in alphabetical order by the abbreviated form of the full name. Environment, international agreements field listing: party to, biodiversity, climate change, desertification, endangered species, environmental modification, marine dumping, ozone layer protection. Signed, but not ratified: hazardous wastes, law of the sea, marine life conservation. Geography. Note: this entry includes miscellaneous geographic information of significance not included elsewhere. Geography. Note field listing: landlocked. The Hindu Kush mountains that run northeast to southwest divide the northern provinces from the rest of the country. The highest peaks are in the northern Wakhan corridor. Height, people and society. Afghanistan panel. Expanded population. This entry gives an estimate from the U.S. Bureau of the Census based on statistics from population censuses, vital statistics registration systems, or sample surveys pertaining to the recent past and on assumptions about future trends. The total population presents one overall measure of the potential impact of the country on the world and within its region. Note: starting with the 1993 Fact Book, demographic estimates for some countries, mostly African, have explicitly taken into account T. More population field listing: 34,940,837, July 2018 est. Country comparison to the world: 39. Nationality. This entry provides the identifying terms for citizens, noun and adjective. Nationality field listing: noun, Afghans. Adjective, Afghan. Ethnic groups. This entry provides an ordered listing of ethnic groups starting with the largest and normally includes the percent of total population. Ethnic groups field listing. Pashtun, Tajik, Hazara, Uzbek. Other, includes smaller numbers of Baloch, Turkmen, Nuristani, Pamiri, Arab, Gujar, Rahui, Kizilbash, Amak, Pashtai, and Kyrgyz. 2015. Note: current statistical data on the sensitive subject of ethnicity in Afghanistan are not available, and ethnicity data from small samples of respondents to opinion polls are not a reliable alternative. Afghanistan's 2004 constitution recognizes 14 ethnic groups: Pashtun, Tajik, Hazara, Uzbek, Baloch, Turkmen, Nuristani, Pamiri, Arab, Gujar, Rahui, Kizilbash, Amak, and Pashtai languages. This entry provides a listing of languages spoken in each country and specifies any that are official national or regional languages. When data is available, the languages spoken in each country are broken down according to the percent of the total population speaking each language as a first language. For those countries without available data, languages are listed in rank order based on prevalence, starting with the most spoken language. Languages field listing. Afghan Persian or Dari, official 80%. Dari functions as the lingua franca. Pashto, official 47%, Uzbek 11%, English 5%, Turkmen 2%, Urdu 2%, Pashto 1%, Nuristani 1%, Arabic 1%, Balochi, Shani, Pamiri, Hindi, Russian, German, French. 2017. Note: data represent most widely spoken languages. Shares some to more than 100% because there is much bilingualism in the country and because respondents were allowed to select more than one language. Note: the Turkic languages Uzbek and Turkmen, as well as Balochi, Pashto, Nuristani, and Pamiri are the third official languages in areas where the majority speaks them. Religions. This entry is an ordered listing of religions by adherents starting with the largest group and sometimes includes the percent of total population. The core characteristics and beliefs of the world's major religions are described below. Baha'i, founded by Mirza Hussein Ali, known as Baha'u'llah, in Iran in 1852, Baha'i faith emphasizes monotheism and believes in one eternal transcendent God. Its guiding focus is to encourage the unity of all peoples on the earth so that justice and peace More religions field listing. Muslim 99.7%, Sunni 84.7 to 89.7%, Shia 10 to 15%, other 0.3%, 2009. Age structure. This entry provides the distribution of the population according to age. Information is included by sex and age group as follows: 0-14 years, children; 15-24 years, early working age; 25-54 years, prime working age; 55-64 years, mature working age; 65 years and over, elderly. The age structure of a population affects a nation's key socio-economic issues. Countries with young populations, high percentage under age 15, need to invest more in schools, while countries with older population. More age structure field listing. 0-14 years, 40.92%, male 7,263,716/female 7,033,427. 15-24 years, 21.85%, male 3,883,693/female 3,749,760. 25-54 years, 30.68%, male 5,456,305/female 5,263,332. 55-64 years, 3.95%, male 679,766/female 699,308. 65 years and over, 2.61%, male 420,445/female 491,085. 2018. Population pyramid. Population pyramid. Dependency ratios. Dependency ratios are a measure of the age structure of a population. They relate the number of individuals that are likely to be economically dependent on the support of others. Dependency ratios contrast the ratio of youths, ages 0-14, and the elderly, ages 65 plus, to the number of those in the working age group, ages 15-64. Changes in the dependency ratio provide an indication of potential social support requirements resulting from changes in population age structures. as a fertility lever. More dependency ratios field listing. Total dependency ratio, 88.8, 2015 est. Youth dependency ratio, 84.1, 2015 est. Elderly dependency ratio, 4.7, 2015 est. Potential support ratio, 21.2, 2015 est. Median age, this entry is the age that divides a population into two numerically equal groups, that is, half the people are younger than this age and half are older. It is a single index that summarizes the age distribution of a population. Currently, the median age ranges from a low of about 15 in Niger and Uganda to 40 or more in several European countries and Japan. See the entry for age structure for the importance of a young versus an older age structure and, by implication, a low versus a high. More median age field listing. Total, 19 years, male, 19 years, female, 19.1 years, 2018 est. Country comparison to the world, 203, population growth rate, the average annual percent change in the population, resulting from a surplus, or deficit, of births over deaths and the balance of migrants entering and leaving a country. The rate may be positive or negative. The growth rate is a factor in determining how great a burden would be imposed on a country by the changing needs of its people for infrastructure, for example, schools, hospitals, housing, roads, resources, for example, food, water, electricity, and jobs. Rapid population growth can be seen as more population growth rate field listing, 2.37%, 2018 est. Country comparison to the world, 29. Birth rate. This entry gives the average annual number of births during a year per 1,000 persons in the population at mid-year, also known as crude birth rate. The birth rate is usually the dominant factor in determining the rate of population growth. It depends on both the level of fertility and the age structure of the population. Birth rate field listing, 37.5 births / 1,000 population, 2018 est. Country comparison to the world, 12. Death rate. This entry gives the average annual number of deaths during a year per 1,000 population at mid-year, also known as crude death rate. The death rate, while only a rough indicator of the mortality situation in a country, accurately indicates the current mortality impact on population growth. This indicator is significantly affected by age distribution, and most countries will eventually show a rise in the overall death rate, in spite of continued decline in mortality at all ages, as declining. More death rate field listing, 13.2 deaths / 1,000 population, 2018 est. Country comparison to the world, 9. Net migration rate. This entry includes the figure for the difference between the number of persons entering and leaving a country during the year per 1,000 persons, based on mid-year population. An excess of persons entering the country is referred to as net immigration. For example, 3.56 migrants / 1,000 population. An excess of persons leaving the country is net emigration. For example, minus 9.26 migrants / 1,000 population. The net migration rate indicates the contribution of migration to the overall level of population Chan. More net migration rate field listing, minus 0.9 migrant '(s) / 1,000 population, 2017 est. Country comparison to the world, 134. Population distribution. This entry provides a summary description of the population dispersion within a country. While it may suggest population density, it does not provide density figures. Population distribution field listing. Populations tend to cluster in the foothills and periphery of the rugged Hindu Kush range. Smaller groups are found in many of the country's interior valleys. In general, the east is more densely settled, while the south is sparsely populated. Urbanization. This entry provides two measures of the degree of urbanization of a population. The first, urban population, describes the percentage of the total population living in urban areas, as defined by the country. The second, rate of urbanization, describes the projected average rate of change of the size of the urban population over the given period of time. Additionally, the world entry includes a list of the 10 largest urban agglomerations. An urban agglomeration is defined as comprising th. More urbanization field listing. Urban population, 25.5% of total population, 2018. Rate of urbanization, 3.37% annual rate of change, 2015-20 est. Major urban areas. population. This entry provides the population of the capital and up to 6 major cities defined as urban agglomerations with populations of at least 750,000 people. An urban agglomeration is defined as comprising the city or town proper and also the suburban fringe or thickly settled territory lying outside of, but adjacent to, the boundaries of the city. For smaller countries, lacking urban centers of 750,000 or more, only the population of the capital is presented. Major urban areas, population field listing, 4.012 million Kabul, capital, 2018. Sex ratio, this entry includes the number of males for each female in 5 age groups, at birth, under 15 years, 15-64 years, 65 years and over, and for the total population. Sex ratio at birth has recently emerged as an indicator of certain kinds of sex discrimination in some countries. For instance, high sex ratios at birth in some Asian countries are now attributed to sex-selective abortion and infanticide due to a strong preference for sons. This will affect future marriage patterns and fertility. More sex ratio field listing, at birth, 1.04 male /s/female, 2017 est, 0-14 years, 1.03 male /s/female, 2017 est, 15-24 years, 1.04 male /s/female, 2017 est, 25-54 years, 1.04 male /s/female, 2017 est, 55-64 years, 0.97 male /s/female, 2017 est, 65 years and over, 0.86 male /s/female, 2017 est. Total population, 1.03 male /s/female, 2017 est. Mother's mean age at first birth. This entry provides the mean, average, age of mothers at the birth of their first child. It is a useful indicator for gauging the success of family planning programs aiming to reduce maternal mortality, increase contraceptive use, particularly among married and unmarried adolescents, delay age at first marriage, and improve the health of newborns. Mother's mean age at first birth field listing, 19.9 years, 2015 est. Note, median age at first birth among women 25-29. Maternal mortality rate. The maternal mortality rate, MMR, is the annual number of female deaths per 100,000 live births from any cause related to or aggravated by pregnancy or its management, excluding accidental or incidental causes. The MMR includes deaths during pregnancy, childbirth, on within 42 days of termination of pregnancy, irrespective of the duration and site of the pregnancy, for a specified year. Maternal mortality rate field listing, 396 deaths/100,000 live births, 2015 est. Country comparison to the world, 28. Infant mortality rate. This entry gives the number of deaths of infants under 1 year old in a given year per 1,000 live births in the same year. This rate is often used as an indicator of the level of health in a country. Infant mortality rate field listing. Total, 108.5 deaths/1,000 live births, 2018 est. Male, 115.7 deaths/1,000 live births, 2018 est. Female, 100.9 deaths/1,000 live births, 2018 est. Country comparison to the world. 1. Life expectancy at birth. This entry contains the average number of years to be lived by a group of people born in the same year, if mortality at each age remains constant in the future. Life expectancy at birth is also a measure of overall quality of life in a country and summarizes the mortality at all ages. It can also be thought of as indicating the potential return on investment in human capital and is necessary for the calculation of various actuarial measures. Life expectancy at birth field listing. Total population, 52.1 years, 2018 est. Male, 50.6 years, 2018 est. Female, 53.6 years, 2018 est. Country comparison to the world. 223. Total fertility rate. This entry gives a figure for the average number of children that would be born per woman if all women lived to the end of their childbearing years and bore children according to a given fertility rate at each age. The total fertility rate, DFR, is a more direct measure of the level of fertility than the crude birth rate, since it refers to births per woman. This indicator shows the potential for population change in the country. A rate of 2 children per woman is considered the replacement. More total fertility rate field listing, 5.02 children born, woman, 2018 est, country comparison to the world, 11, contraceptive prevalence rate, this field gives the percent of women of reproductive age, 1549, who are married or in union and are using, or whose sexual partner is using, a method of contraception according to the date of the most recent available data. The contraceptive prevalence rate is an indicator of health services, development, and women's empowerment. It is also useful in understanding past, present, and future fertility trends, especially in developing countries. Contraceptive prevalence rate field listing, 22.5%, 2015/16. Health expenditures, this entry provides the total expenditure on health as a percentage of GDP. Health expenditures are broadly defined as activities performed either by institutions or individuals through the application of medical, paramedical, and/or nursing knowledge and technology, the primary purpose of which is to promote, restore, or maintain health. Health expenditures field listing, 8.2% of GDP, 2014, country comparison to the world, 52. Physicians density, this entry gives the number of medical doctors, physicians, including generalist and specialist medical practitioners, per 1,000 of the population. Medical doctors are defined as doctors that study, diagnose, treat, and prevent illness, disease, injury, and other physical and mental impairments in humans through the application of modern medicine. They also plan, supervise, and evaluate care and treatment plans by other healthcare providers. The World Health Organization estimates that more physicians density field listing, 0.3 physicians/1,000 population, 2016. Hospital bed density, this entry provides the number of hospital beds per 1,000 people. It serves as a general measure of inpatient service availability. Hospital beds include inpatient beds available in public, private, general, and specialized hospitals and rehabilitation centers. In most cases, beds for both acute and chronic care are included. Because the level of inpatient services required for individual countries depends on several factors, such as demographic issues and the burden of disease, there is more hospital bed density field listing, 0.5 beds/1,000 population, 2014. Drinking water source, this entry provides information about access to improved or unimproved drinking water sources available to segments of the population of a country. Improved drinking water, use of any of the following sources: piped water into dwelling, yard, or plot, public tap or standpipe, tubewell or borehole, protected dug well, protected spring, or rainwater collection. Unimproved drinking water, use of any of the following sources: unprotected dug well, unprotected spring, cart with small tank or More drinking water source field listing, improved, urban, 78.2% of population, 2015 est, rural, 47% of population, 2015 est, total, 55.3% of population, 2015 est, unimproved, urban, 21.8% of population, 2015 est, rural, 53% of population, 2015 est, total, 44.7% of population, 2015 est. Sanitation facility access, this entry provides information about access to improved or unimproved sanitation facilities available to segments of the population of a country. Improved sanitation, use of any of the following facilities: flush up or flush to a piped sewer system, septic tank or pit latrine, ventilated improved pit, VIP, latrine, pit latrine with slab, or a composting toilet. Unimproved sanitation, use of any of the following facilities: flush up or flush a not pipe to a sewer system, septic tank. More sanitation facility access field listing, improved, urban, 45.1% of population, 2015 est, rural, 27% of population, 2015 est, total, 31.9% of population, 2015 est, unimproved, urban, 54.9% of population, 2015 est, rural, 73% of population, 2015 est, total, 68.1% of population, 2015 est. HIV/AIDS, adult prevalence rate, this entry gives an estimate of the percentage of adults, aged 15-49, living with HIV/AIDS, The adult prevalence rate is calculated by dividing the estimated number of adults living with HIV/AIDS at year-end by the total adult population at year-end. HIV/AIDS, adult prevalence rate field listing, 1%, 2016 est. HIV/AIDS, people living with HIV/AIDS, this entry gives an estimate of all people, adults and children, alive at year-end with HIV infection, whether or not they have developed symptoms of AIDS. HIV/AIDS, people living with HIV/AIDS field listing, 7,500, 2016 est. Country comparison to the world, 109. HIV/AIDS, deaths, this entry gives an estimate of the number of adults and children who died of AIDS during a given calendar year. HIV/AIDS, deaths field listing, 500, 2016 est. Major infectious diseases, this entry lists major infectious diseases likely to be encountered in countries where the risk of such diseases is assessed to be very high as compared to the United States. These infectious diseases represent risks to U.S. government personnel traveling to the specified country for a period of less than 3 years. The degree of risk is assessed by considering the foreign nature of these infectious diseases, their severity, and the probability of being affected by the diseases present. More major infectious diseases field listing, degree of risk, intermediate, 2016, food or waterborne diseases, bacterial diarrhea, hepatitis A, and typhoid fever, 2016, vector-borne diseases, malaria, 2016, obesity, adult prevalence rate, this entry gives the percent of a country's population considered to be obese. Obesity is defined as an adult having a body mass index, BMI, greater to or equal to 30.0. BMI is calculated by taking a person's weight in kg and dividing it by the person's squared height in meters. Obesity, adult prevalence rate field listing, 5.5%, 2016. Country comparison to the world, 176. Children under the age of 5 years underweight. This entry gives the percent of children under 5 considered to be underweight. Underweight means weight for age is approximately 2 kilograms below for standard at age 1, 3 kilograms below standard for ages 2 and 3, and 4 kilograms below standard for ages 4 and 5. This statistic is an indicator of the nutritional status of a community. Children who suffer from growth retardation as a result of poor diets and/or recurrent infections tend to have a greater risk of suffering illness and death. Children under the age of 5 years underweight field listing, 25%, 2013. Country comparison to the world, 16. Education expenditures, this entry provides the public expenditure on education as a percent of GDP. Education expenditures field listing, 3.2% of GDP, 2015. Country comparison to the world, 138. Literacy, this entry includes a definition of literacy and Census Bureau percentages for the total population, males, and females. There are no universal definitions and standards of literacy, unless otherwise specified. All rates are based on the most common definition, the ability to read and write at a specified age. Detailing the standards that individual countries use to assess the ability to read and write is beyond the scope of the fact book. Information on literacy, while not a perfect measure. More literacy field listing, definition, age 15 and over can read and write, 2015 est. Total population, 38.2%, 2015 est. Male, 52%, 2015 est. Female, 24.2%, 2015 est. School life expectancy, primary to tertiary education, school life expectancy, SLE, is the total number of years of schooling, primary to tertiary, that a child can expect to receive, assuming that the probability of his or her being enrolled in school at any particular future age is equal to the current enrollment ratio at that age. Caution must be maintained when utilizing this indicator in international comparisons. For example, a year or grade completed in one country is not necessarily the same in terms of educational content or quality. More school life expectancy, primary to tertiary education, field listing, total, 11 years, 2014, male, 13 years, 2014, female, 8 years, 2014, hide, government, Afghanistan panel, expanded, country name. This entry includes all forms of the country's name approved by the U.S. Board on Geographic Names. Italy is used as an example, conventional long form, Italian Republic, conventional short form, Italy, local long form, Repubblica Italiana, local short form, Italia, former, Kingdom of Italy, as well as the abbreviation. Also see the terminology note. Country name field listing, conventional long form, Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, conventional short form, Afghanistan, local long form, Jamhuri-e-Islami Afghanistan, local short form, Afghanistan, former, Republic of Afghanistan. Etymology. The name Afghan originally referred to the Pashtun people. Today it is understood to include all the country's ethnic groups, while the suffix stan means place of or country, so Afghanistan literally means the land of the Afghans. Government type. This entry gives the basic form of government. Definitions of the major governmental terms are as follows. Note that for some countries more than one definition applies. Absolute monarchy, a form of government where the monarch rules unhindered, that is, without any laws, constitution, or legally organized opposition. Anarchy, a condition of lawlessness or political disorder brought about by the absence of governmental authority. Authoritarian, a form of government in which. More government type field listing. Presidential Islamic Republic. Capital. This entry gives the name of the seat of government, its geographic coordinates, the time difference relative to Coordinated Universal Time, UTC, and the time observed in Washington, D.C., and, if applicable, information on Daylight Saving Time, DST, where appropriate. A special note has been added to highlight those countries that have multiple time zones. Capital field listing. Name, Kabul. Geographic coordinates, 3431N, 6911E. Time difference, UTC plus 4.5, 9.5 hours ahead of Washington, D.C., during Standard Time. Etymology. Named for the Kabul River, but the river's name is of unknown origin. Administrative divisions. This entry generally gives the numbers, designatory terms, and first-order administrative divisions as approved by the U.S. Board on Geographic Names, BGN. Changes that have been reported but not yet acted on by the BGN are noted. Geographic names conform to spellings approved by the BGN with the exception of the omission of diacritical marks and special characters. Administrative divisions field listing. 34 provinces, Wilayat, singular, Wilayat, Badakhshan, Baghas, Baghlan, Balkh, Bamiyan, Daykhundi, Farah, Faryab, Ghazni, Ghor, Helmand, Herat, Jowzjan, Kabul, Kandahar, Kapiza, Khost, Kana, Kunduz, Lagman, Logar, Nangarhar, Nimroz, Nuristan, Paktika, Paktiya, Panjshir, Parwan, Samangan, Saripal, Takhar, Urizgan, Wardak, Zabul. Independence. For most countries, this entry gives the date that sovereignty was achieved and from which nation, empire, or trusteeship. For the other countries, the date given may not represent independence in the strict sense, but rather some significant nationhood event such as the traditional founding date or the date of unification, federation, confederation, establishment, fundamental change in the form of government, or state succession. For a number of countries, the establishment of statehood. More independence field listing. The 19th of August 1919, from UK control over Afghan foreign affairs. National holiday. This entry gives the primary national day of celebration, usually Independence Day. National holiday field listing. Independence Day, 19 August, 1919, Constitution. This entry provides information on the country's constitution and includes two subfields. The history subfield includes the dates of previous constitutions and the main steps and dates in formulating and implementing the latest constitution. For countries with 1-3 previous constitutions, the years are listed. For those with 4-9 previous, the entry is listed as several previous, and for those with 10 or more, the entry is many previous. The amendments subfield summarizes the process of More constitution field listing. History, several previous. Latest drafted the 14th of December 2003, the 4th of January 2004, signed the 16th of January 2004, ratified the 26th of January 2004, 2017. Amendments, proposed by a commission formed by presidential decree followed by the convention of a Grand Council, Loya Jirga, decreed by the President. Passage requires at least 2/3 majority vote of the Loya Jirga membership and endorsement by the President. 2017. Legal system. This entry provides the description of a country's legal system. A statement on judicial review of legislative acts is also included for a number of countries. The legal systems of nearly all countries are generally modeled upon elements of 5 main types: civil law, including French law, the Napoleonic Code, Roman law, Roman Dutch law, and Spanish law; common law, including United States law, customary law, mixed or pluralistic law, and religious law, including Islamic law, and addition. More legal system field listing, mixed legal system of civil, customary, and Islamic law, international law organization participation. This entry includes information on the country's acceptance of jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice, ICJ, and of the International Criminal Court, ICT. 59 countries have accepted ICJ jurisdiction with reservations and 11 have accepted ICJ jurisdiction without reservations. 122 countries have accepted ICT jurisdiction. Appendix B, International Organizations and Groups explains the differing mandates of the ICJ and ICT. International Law Organization Participation Field Listing has not submitted an ICJ jurisdiction declaration, accepts ICT jurisdiction. Citizenship. This entry provides information related to the acquisition and exercise of citizenship. It includes 4 subfields. Citizenship by birth describes the acquisition of citizenship based on place of birth, known as jus soli, regardless of the citizenship of parents. Citizenship by descent only describes the acquisition of citizenship based on the principle of jus sanguinis, or by descent, where at least one parent is a citizen of the state and being born within the territorial limits of their. More citizenship field listing. Citizenship by birth, no. Citizenship by descent only. At least one parent must have been born in, and continuously lived in, Afghanistan. Dual citizenship recognized, no. Residency requirement for naturalization, 5 years. Suffrage. This entry gives the age at enfranchisement and whether the right to vote is universal or restricted. Suffrage field listing. 18 years of age, universal. Executive branch. This entry includes 5 sub-entries: Chief of State, Head of Government, Cabinet, Elections/Appointments, Election Results. Chief of State includes the name, title, and beginning date in office of the titular leader of the country who represents the state at official and ceremonial functions but may not be involved with the day-to-day activities of the government. Head of Government includes the name, title of the top executive designated to manage the executive branch of the government. More executive branch field listing. Chief of State, President of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan Ashraf Ghani Ahmadzai, since the 29th of September 2014, CEO Abdullah Drive, since the 29th of September 2014, First Vice President Abdul Rashid Dostam, since the 29th of September 2014, Second Vice President Sarwar Danesh, since the 29th of September 2014, First Deputy CEO Kyle Mohammed Khan, Second Deputy CEO Mohammed Mohegek. Note: the President is both Chief of State and Head of Government. Head of Government, President of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan Ashraf Ghani Ahmadzai, since the 29th of September 2014, CEO Abdullah Drive, since the 29th of September 2014, First Vice President Abdul Rashid Dostam, since the 29th of September 2014, Second Vice President Sarwar Danesh, since the 29th of September 2014, First Deputy CEO Kyle Mohammed Khan, Second Deputy CEO Mohammed Mohegek. Cabinet. Cabinet consists of 25 ministers appointed by the President, approved by the National Assembly. Elections/Appointments. President directly elected by absolute majority popular vote in 2 rounds if needed for a 5-year term, eligible for a second term. Election last held in 2 rounds on 5 April and the 14th of June 2014, next to be held in 2018. Election results. Ashraf Ghani elected president in the second round, percent of vote in first round. Abdullah, National Coalition of Afghanistan 45%, Ashraf Ghani, Independent 31.6%, Zalmai Rasool 11.4%, other 12%, percent of vote in second round, Ashraf Ghani 56.4%, Abdullah 43.6%. Legislative branch. This entry has 3 subfields. The description subfield provides the legislative structure: unicameral, single house; bicameral, an upper and a lower house; formal names, number of member seats, types of constituencies or voting districts, single seat, multi-seat, nationwide, electoral voting systems, and member term of office. The elections subfield includes the dates of the last election and next election. The election results subfield lists percent of vote by party, coalition and More legislative branch field listing. Description. Bicameral National Assembly consists of Meshra-Nojergu or House of Elders, 102 seats, 34 members indirectly elected by district councils to serve 3-year terms, 34 indirectly elected by provincial councils to serve 4-year terms, and 34 nominated by the President, of which 17 must be women, 2 must represent the disabled, and 2 must be Kutchi nomads. Members nominated by the President serve 5-year terms. Wolzajurga or House of People, 249 seats. Members directly elected in multi-seat constituencies by proportional representation vote to serve 5-year terms. Elections. Mesharanojurga, last held the 10th of January 2015, next to be held in 2018. Wolzajurga, last held on the 20th of October 2018, next to be held in 2023. Election results. Mesharanojurga, percent of vote by party, Na, seats by party, Na, composition, men 84, women 18, percent of women 17.6%. Wolzajurga, percent of vote by party, Na, seats by party, Na, composition, men 148, women 69, percent of women 27.7%. Note, total National Assembly percent of women 24.8%. Note, the Constitution allows the government to convene a constitutional lawyer Jirga, Grand Council, on issues of independence, national sovereignty, and territorial integrity. It consists of members of the National Assembly and chairpersons of the provincial and district councils. A lawyer Jirga can amend provisions of the Constitution and prosecute the President. No constitutional lawyer Jirga has ever been held, and district councils have never been elected. The President appointed 34 members of the Mesharanojurga that the district councils should have indirectly elected. Judicial Branch. This entry includes 3 subfields. The highest courts subfield includes the names of the country's highest level courts, the number and titles of the judges, and the types of cases heard by the court, which commonly are based on civil, criminal and appointing J. More Judicial Branch field listing. Highest courts. Supreme Court or Stira Mahkama, consists of the Supreme Court Chief and 8 justices organized into criminal, public security, civil, and commercial divisions or divans. Judge selection and term of office. Court Chief and Justices appointed by the President with the approval of the Wolzajurga. Court Chief and Justices serve single 10-year terms. Subordinate courts, appeals courts, primary courts, special courts for issues including narcotics, security, property, family, and juveniles. Political parties and leaders. This entry includes a listing of significant political parties, coalitions, and electoral lists as of each country's last legislative election, unless otherwise noted. Political parties and leaders field listing. Note, the Ministry of Justice licensed 57 political parties as of September 2016. International organization participation. This entry lists in alphabetical order by abbreviation those international organizations in which the subject country is a member or participates in some other way. International organization participation field listing. ADB, SICA, CP, ECO, ITI, Candidate Country, FAO, G77, ERIA, IBRD, ICAO, ICC, NGOs, ICT, ICRM, IDA, IDB, IFAT, IFC, IFCS, ILO, IMF, Interpol, IOC, IAM, IPU, ISO, Correspondent, ITSO, ITU, ITAC, NGOs, MEGA, NAM, OIC, OPCW, OS, Partner, SARC, SACEP, SCO, Dialogue Member, UN, UNAMA, UNCTAD, UNESCO, UNHCR, UNIDO, UNTO, APU, WCO, WFTU, NGOs, WHO, WIPO, WMO, WTO, Diplomatic Representation in the U.S. This entry includes the Chief of Mission, Chancery address, telephone, fax, consulate general locations, and consulate locations. The use of the annotated title appointed ambassador refers to a new ambassador who has presented his/her credentials to the Secretary of State but not the U.S. President. Such ambassadors fulfill all diplomatic functions except meeting with or appearing at functions attended by the President until such time as they formally present their credentials at a White House. More diplomatic representation in the U.S. field listing. Chief of Mission, Ambassador Hamdullah Mohib, since the 17th of September 2015, Chancery, 2341 Wyoming Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. 20008. Telephone, 12024836410. Fax, 12024836488. Consulates General, Los Angeles, New York, Washington, D.C. Diplomatic representation from the U.S. This entry includes the Chief of Mission, Embassy address, mailing address, telephone number, fax number, branch office locations, consulate general locations, and consulate locations. Diplomatic representation from the U.S. field listing, Chief of Mission, Ambassador John Bates, since December 2017, Embassy, Bibi Maru, Kabul, mailing address, U.S. Embassy Kabul, APO, E09806, telephone, 00930700108001, fax, 00930700108564, flag description. This entry provides a written flag description produced from actual flags or the best information available at the time the entry was written. The flags of independent states are used by their dependencies unless there is an officially recognized local flag. Some disputed and other areas do not have flags. Flag description field listing. 3 equal vertical bands of black, hoist side, red, and green, with the national emblem in white centered on the red band and slightly overlapping the other 2 bands. The center of the emblem features a mosque with pulpit and flags on either side. Below the mosque are numerals for the solar year 1298, 1919 in the Gregorian calendar, the year of Afghan independence from the UK. This central image is circled by a border consisting of sheaves of wheat on the left and right. In the upper center is an Arabic inscription of the Shahada, Muslim creed, below which are rays of the rising sun over the Takbah, Arabic expression meaning God is great. And at bottom center is a scroll bearing the name Afghanistan. Black signifies the past, red is for the bloodshed for independence, and green can represent either hope for the future, agricultural prosperity, or Islam. Note, Afghanistan had more changes to its national flag in the 20th century, 19 by one count, than any other country. The colors black, red, and green appeared on most of them. National symbols. A national symbol is a formal, floral, or other abstract representation, or some distinctive object, that over time has come to be closely identified with a country or entity. Not all countries have national symbols, a few countries have more than one. National symbols field listing, lion, national colors, red, green, black. National anthem, a generally patriotic musical composition, usually in the form of a song or hymn of praise, that evokes and eulogizes the history, traditions, or struggles of a nation or its people. National anthems can be officially recognized as a national song by a country's constitution or by an enacted law, or simply by tradition. Although most anthems contain lyrics, some do not. National anthem field listing, name, Militia Rood, national anthem, lyrics/music, Abdulbari Jahani, Babrak Wazir. Note, adopted 2006. The 2004 constitution of the post-Taliban government mandated that a new national anthem should be written containing the phrase Allahu Akbar, God is greatest, and mentioning the names of Afghanistan's ethnic groups. Hide, economy, Afghanistan panel, expanded, economy, overview. This entry briefly describes the type of economy, including the degree of market orientation, the level of economic development, the most important natural resources, and the unique areas of specialization. It also characterizes major economic events and policy changes in the most recent 12 months and may include a statement about 1 or 2 key future macroeconomic trends. Economy, overview field listing. Despite improvements in life expectancy, incomes, and literacy since 2001, Afghanistan is extremely poor, landlocked, and highly dependent on foreign aid. Much of the population continues to suffer from shortages of housing, clean water, electricity, medical care, and jobs. Corruption, insecurity, weak governance, lack of infrastructure, and the Afghan government's difficulty in extending rule of law to all parts of the country pose challenges to future economic growth. Afghanistan's living standards are among the lowest in the world. Since 2014, the economy has slowed, in large part because of the withdrawal of nearly 100,000 foreign troops that had artificially inflated the country's economic growth. The international community remains committed to Afghanistan's development, pledging over $83 billion at 10 donors' conferences between 2003 and 2016. In October 2016, the donors at the Brussels conference pledged an additional $3.8 billion in development aid annually from 2017 to 2020. Even with this help, government of Afghanistan still faces number of challenges, including low revenue collection, anemic job creation, high levels of corruption, weak government capacity, and poor public infrastructure. In 2017, Afghanistan's growth rate was only marginally above that of the 2014 to 2016 average. The drawdown of international security forces that started in 2012 has negatively affected economic growth, as a substantial portion of commerce, especially in the services sector, has catered to the ongoing international troop presence in the country. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani Ahmadzai is dedicated to instituting economic reforms to include improving revenue collection and fighting corruption. The government has implemented reforms to the budget process and in some other areas. However, many other reforms will take time to implement and Afghanistan will remain dependent on international donor support over the next several years. GDP, purchasing power parity. This entry gives the gross domestic product, GDP, or value of all final goods and services produced within a nation in a given year, a nation's GDP at purchasing power parity. PPP, exchange rates is the sum value of all goods and services produced in the country valued at prices prevailing in the United States in the year noted. This is the measure most economists prefer when looking at per capita welfare and when comparing living conditions or use of resources across countries. The measure. More GDP, purchasing power parity, field listing, $69.45 billion, 2017 est, $67.65 billion, 2016 est, $66.21 billion, 2015 est. Note, data are in 2017 dollars. Country comparison to the world, 101, GDP, official exchange rate. This entry gives the gross domestic product, GDP, or value of all final goods and services produced within a nation in a given year. A nation's GDP at official exchange rates, OER, is the home currency denominated annual GDP figure divided by the bilateral average US exchange rate with that country in that year. The measure is simple to compute and gives a precise measure of the value of output. Many economists prefer this measure when gauging the economic power an economy maintains. More GDP, official exchange rate, field listing, $20.24 billion, 2017 est, 2017 est. GDP, real growth rate. This entry gives GDP growth on an annual basis adjusted for inflation and expressed as a percent. The growth rates are year over year, and not compounded. GDP, real growth rate field listing, 2.7%, 2017 est, 2.2%, 2016 est, 1%, 2015 est. Country comparison to the world, 124, GDP, per capita. PPP, this entry shows GDP on a purchasing power parity basis divided by population as of 1 July for the same year. GDP, per capita. PPP, field listing, $2,000, 2017 est, $2,000, 2016 est, $2,000, 2015 est. Note, data are in 2017 dollars. Country comparison to the world, 209, gross national saving. Gross national saving is derived by deducting final consumption expenditure, household plus government, from gross national disposable income, and consists of personal saving, plus business saving, the sum of the capital consumption allowance and retained business profits, plus government saving, the excess of tax revenues over expenditures, but excludes foreign saving, the excess of imports of goods and services over exports. The figures are presented as a percent of GDP, a negative. More gross national saving field listing, 22.7% of GDP, 2017 est. 25.8% of GDP, 2016 est. 21.4% of GDP, 2015 est. Country comparison to the world, 78, GDP, composition, by end use. This entry shows who does the spending in an economy: consumers, businesses, government, and foreigners. The distribution gives the percentage contribution to total GDP of household consumption, government consumption, investment in fixed capital, investment in inventories, exports of goods and services, and imports of goods and services, and will total 100% of GDP if the data are complete. Household consumption consists of expenditures by resident households, and by non-profit insti. More GDP, composition, by end-use field listing, household consumption, 81.6%, 2016 est. Government consumption, 12%, 2016 est. Investment in fixed capital, 17.2%, 2016 est. Investment in inventories, 30%, 2016 est. Exports of goods and services, 6.7%, 2016 est. Imports of goods and services, minus 47.6%, 2016 est. GDP, composition, by sector of origin. This entry shows where production takes place in an economy. The distribution gives the percentage contribution of agriculture, industry, and services to total GDP, and will total 100% of GDP if the data are complete. Agriculture includes farming, fishing, and forestry. Industry includes mining, manufacturing, energy production, and construction. Services cover government activities, communications, transportation, finance, and all other private economic activities that do not prod. More Gdp composition by sector of origin field listing. Agriculture 23%, 2016. Industry 21.1%, 2016. Services 55.9%, 2016. Note: data exclude opium production. Agriculture products. This entry is an ordered listing of major crops and products starting with the most important. Agriculture products field listing: opium, wheat, fruits, nuts, wool, mutton, sheepskins, lambskins, poppies. Industries. This entry provides a rank ordering of industries starting with the largest by value of annual output. Industries field listing: small-scale production of bricks, textiles, soap, furniture, shoes, fertilizer, apparel, food products, non-alcoholic beverages, mineral water, cement, hand-woven carpets, natural gas, coal, copper. Industrial production growth rate. This entry gives the annual percentage increase in industrial production, includes manufacturing, mining, and construction. Industrial production growth rate field listing, -1.9%, 2016. Country comparison to the world, 181. Labor force. This entry contains the total labor force figure. Labor force field listing, 8.478 million, 2017. Country comparison to the world, 61. Labor force, by occupation. This entry lists the percentage distribution of the labor force by sector of occupation. Agriculture includes farming, fishing, and forestry. Industry includes mining, manufacturing, energy production, and construction. Services cover government activities, communications, transportation, finance, and all other economic activities that do not produce material goods. The distribution will total less than 100% if the data are incomplete and may range from 99–101% due to rounding. More labor force, by occupation field listing. Agriculture, 44.3%. Industry, 18.1%. Services, 37.6%. 2017. Unemployment rate. This entry contains the percent of the labor force that is without jobs. Substantial underemployment might be noted. Unemployment rate field listing, 23.9%, 2017. 22.6%, 2016. Country comparison to the world, 194. Population below poverty line. National estimates of the percentage of the population falling below the poverty line are based on surveys of subgroups, with the results weighted by the number of people in each group. Definitions of poverty vary considerably among nations. For example, rich nations generally employ more generous standards of poverty than poor nations. Population below poverty line field listing, 54.5%, 2017. Household income or consumption by percentage share. Data on household income or consumption come from household surveys, the results adjusted for household size. Nations use different standards and procedures in collecting and adjusting the data. Surveys based on income will normally show a more unequal distribution than surveys based on consumption. The quality of surveys is improving with time, yet caution is still necessary in making inter-country comparisons. Household income or consumption by percentage share field listing. Lowest 10%, 3.8%, 2008. Highest 10%, 24%, 2008. Distribution of family income, Gini index. This index measures the degree of inequality in the distribution of family income in a country. The index is calculated from the Lorentz curve, in which cumulative family income is plotted against the number of families arranged from the poorest to the richest. The index is the ratio of A, the area between a country's Lorentz curve and the 45-degree helping line, to B, the entire triangular area under the 45-degree line. The more nearly equal a country's income distribution, the closer its. More distribution of family income, Gini index field listing, 29.4, 2008. Country comparison to the world, 136. Budget. This entry includes revenues, expenditures, and capital expenditures. These figures are calculated on an exchange rate basis, that is, not in purchasing power parity. PPP terms. Budget field listing. Revenues, 2.276 billion, 2017 Expenditures, 5.328 billion, 2017 Taxes and other revenues. This entry records total taxes and other revenues received by the national government during the time period indicated, expressed as a percent of GDP. Taxes include personal and corporate income taxes, value-added taxes, excise taxes, and tariffs. Other revenues include social contributions, such as payments for social security and hospital insurance, grants, and net revenues from public enterprises. Normalizing the data, by dividing total revenues by GDP, enables easy comparisons across. More taxes and other revenues field listing, 11.2% of GDP, 2017 Country comparison to the world, 210, budget surplus, plus, or deficit, dash. This entry records the difference between national government revenues and expenditures, expressed as a percent of GDP. A positive, plus, number indicates that revenues exceeded expenditures, a budget surplus, while a negative number indicates the reverse, a budget deficit. Normalizing the data, by dividing the budget balance by GDP, enables easy comparisons across countries and indicates whether a national government saves or borrows money. Countries with high budget deficits, relate. More budget surplus, plus, or deficit, field listing, minus 15.1%, of GDP, 2017 Country comparison to the world, 217, public debt. This entry records the cumulative total of all government borrowings less repayments that are denominated in a country's home currency. Public debt should not be confused with external debt, which reflects the foreign currency liabilities of both the private and public sector and must be financed out of foreign exchange earnings. Public debt field listing, 7% of GDP, 2017 7.8% of GDP, 2016 Country comparison to the world, 202, Fiscal Year. This entry identifies the beginning and ending months for a country's accounting period of 12 months, which often is the calendar year but which may begin in any month. All yearly references are for the calendar year, see, unless indicated as a non-calendar fiscal year, FY. Fiscal year field listing, the 21st December to the 20th December. Inflation rate, consumer prices. This entry furnishes the annual percent change in consumer prices compared with the previous year's consumer prices. Inflation rate, consumer prices, field listing, 5%, 2017 4.4%, 2016 Country comparison to the world, 171, commercial bank prime lending rate. This entry provides a simple average of annualized interest rates commercial banks charge on new loans, denominated in the national currency, to their most creditworthy customers. Commercial bank prime lending rate field listing, 15%, the 31st of December 2016 15%, the 31st of December 2015 Country comparison to the world, 37, stock of naira money. This entry, also known as M1, comprises the total quantity of currency in circulation, notes and coins, plus demand deposits denominated in the national currency held by non-bank financial institutions, state and local governments, non-financial public enterprises, and the private sector of the economy. Measured at a specific point in time, national currency units have been converted to US dollars at the closing exchange rate for the date of the information. Because of exchange rate moving, More stock of naira money field listing, $6.644 billion. The 31st of December 2014 $6.192 billion. The 31st of December 2013 Country comparison to the world, 94, stock of broad money. This entry covers all of naira money, plus the total quantity of time and savings deposits, credit union deposits, institutional money market funds, short-term repurchase agreements between the central bank and commercial deposit banks, and other large liquid assets held by non-bank financial institutions, state and local governments, non-financial public enterprises, and the private sector of the economy. National currency units have been converted to US dollars at the closing exchange R. More stock of broad money field listing, $6.945 billion. The 31st of December 2014 $6.544 billion. The The 31st of December 2013 country comparison to the world. 95. Stock of domestic credit. This entry is the total quantity of credit, denominated in a domestic currency, provided by financial institutions to the central bank, state and local governments, public non-financial corporations, and the private sector. The national currency units have been converted to US dollars at the closing exchange rate on the date of the information. Stock of domestic credit field listing, minus $240.6 million. The 31st of December 2016 country comparison to the world. 192. Market value of publicly traded shares. This entry gives the value of shares issued by publicly traded companies at a price determined in the national stock markets on the final day of the period indicated. It is simply the latest price per share multiplied by the total number of outstanding shares, cumulated over all companies listed on the particular exchange. Market value of publicly traded shares field listing. Now, current account balance. This entry records a country's net trade in goods and services, plus net earnings from rents, interest, profits, and dividends, and net transfer payments, such as pension funds and worker remittances, to and from the rest of the world during the period specified. These figures are calculated on an exchange rate basis, that is, not in purchasing power parity (PPP) terms. Current account balance field listing, $1.014 billion, 2017 $1.409 billion, 2016 country comparison to the world. 48. Exports. This entry provides the total US dollar amount of merchandise exports on an FOB, free on board, basis. These figures are calculated on an exchange rate basis, that is, not in purchasing power parity (PPP) terms. Exports field listing, $784 million, 2017 $614.2 million, 2016 Note, not including illicit exports or re-exports. Country comparison to the world. 171. Exports. Partners. This entry provides a rank ordering of trading partners starting with the most important. It sometimes includes the percent of total dollar value. Exports. Partners field listing. India 56.5%, Pakistan 29.6%, 2017. Exports. Commodities. This entry provides a listing of the highest valued exported products. It sometimes includes the percent of total dollar value. Exports. Commodities field listing. Opium, fruits and nuts, hand-woven carpets, wool, cotton, hides and pelts, precious and semi-precious gems, and medical herbs. Imports. This entry provides the total US dollar amount of merchandise imports on a CIF, cost, insurance, and freight, or FOB, free on board, basis. These figures are calculated on an exchange rate basis, that is, not in purchasing power parity (PPP) terms. Imports field listing, $7.616 billion, 2017 $6.16 billion, 2016 Country comparison to the world. 114. Imports. Commodities. This entry provides a listing of the highest valued imported products. It sometimes includes the percent of total dollar value. Imports. Commodities field listing. Machinery and other capital goods, food, textiles, petroleum products. Imports. Partners. This entry provides a rank ordering of trading partners starting with the most important. It sometimes includes the percent of total dollar value. Imports. Partners field listing. China 21%, Iran 20.5%, Pakistan 11.8%, Kazakhstan 11%, Uzbekistan 6.8%, Malaysia 5.3%, 2017. Reserves of foreign exchange and gold. This entry gives the dollar value for the stock of all financial assets that are available to the Central Monetary Authority for use in meeting a country's balance of payments needs as of the end date of the period specified. This category includes not only foreign currency and gold, but also a country's holdings of special drawing rights in the International Monetary Fund, and its reserve position in the fund. Reserves of foreign exchange and gold field listing, $7.187 billion. The 31st of December 2017 $6.901 billion. The 31st of December 2015 Country comparison to the world. 85. Debt. External. This entry gives the total public and private debt owed to non-residents repayable in internationally accepted currencies, goods, or services. These figures are calculated on an exchange rate basis, that is, not in purchasing power parity PPP, terms, debt, external field listing, $2.84 billion, country comparison to the world, 144, exchange rates. This entry provides the average annual price of a country's monetary unit for the time period specified, expressed in units of local currency per US dollar, as determined by international market forces or by official fiat. The International Organization for Standardization, ISO, 4217 alphabetic currency code for the national medium of exchange is presented in parenthesis. Closing daily exchange rates are not presented in the World Factbook, but are used to convert stock values. For example, there. More exchange rates field listing, Afghanis, AFA, per US dollar $7.87, 2017 est, 68.03, 2016 est, 67.87, 2015, 61.14, 2014 est, 57.25, 2013 est. Hyde, Energy, Afghanistan Panel, Expanded, Electricity Access. This entry provides information on access to electricity, electrification data, collected from industry reports, national surveys, and international sources, consists of 4 subfields. Population without electricity provides an estimate of the number of citizens that do not have access to electricity. Electrification, total population is the percent of a country's total population with access to electricity. Electrification, urban areas is the percent of a country's urban population. More electricity access field listing, population without electricity, 18,999,254, 2012, electrification, total population, 43%, 2012, electrification, urban areas, 83%, 2012, electrification, rural areas, 32%, 2012, electricity, production. This entry is the annual electricity generated expressed in kilowatt-hours. The discrepancy between the amount of electricity generated and/or imported and the amount consumed and/or exported is accounted for as loss in transmission and distribution. Electricity. Production field listing, 1.211 billion kWh, 2016 est. Country comparison to the world, 146. Electricity. Consumption. This entry consists of total electricity generated annually plus imports and minus exports, expressed in kilowatt-hours. The discrepancy between the amount of electricity generated and/or imported and the amount consumed and/or exported is accounted for as loss in transmission and distribution. Electricity. Consumption field listing, 5.526 billion kWh, 2016 est. Country comparison to the world, 119. Electricity. Exports. This entry is the total exported electricity in kilowatt-hours. Electricity. Exports field listing, 0 kilowatt-hours, 2016 est. Country comparison to the world, 96. Electricity. Imports. This entry is the total imported electricity in kilowatt-hours. Electricity. Imports field listing, 4.4 billion kWh, 2016 est. Country comparison to the world, 42. Electricity. Installed generating capacity. This entry is the total capacity of currently installed generators, expressed in kilowatts, kW, to produce electricity. A 10 kilowatt, kW, generator will produce 10 kilowatt-hours, kWh, of electricity, if it runs continuously for 1 hour. Electricity. Installed generating capacity field listing, 634,100 kilowatts, 2016 est. Country comparison to the world, 138. Electricity. From fossil fuels. This entry measures the capacity of plants that generate electricity by burning fossil fuels, such as coal, petroleum products, and natural gas, expressed as a share of the country's total generating capacity. Electricity. From fossil fuels field listing, 45% of total installed capacity, 2016 est. Country comparison to the world, 159. Electricity. From nuclear fuels. This entry measures the capacity of plants that generate electricity through radioactive decay of nuclear fuel, expressed as a share of the country's total generating capacity. Electricity. From nuclear fuels field listing, 0% of total installed capacity, 2017 est. Country comparison to the world, 32. Electricity. From hydroelectric plants. This entry measures the capacity of plants that generate electricity by water-driven turbines, expressed as a share of the country's total generating capacity. Electricity from hydroelectric plants field listing, 52% of total installed capacity, 2017 country comparison to the world, 34. Electricity from other renewable sources. This entry measures the capacity of plants that generate electricity by using renewable energy sources other than hydroelectric, including, for example, wind, waves, solar, and geothermal, expressed as a share of the country's total generating capacity. Electricity from other renewable sources field listing, 4% of total installed capacity, 2017 country comparison to the world, 111. Crude oil production. This entry is the total amount of crude oil produced, in barrels per day, barrel/day. Crude oil production field listing, 0 barrel, day, 2017 country comparison to the world, 101. Crude oil exports. This entry is the total amount of crude oil exported, in barrels per day, barrel/day. Crude oil exports field listing, 0 barrel, day, 2015 country comparison to the world, 82. Crude oil imports. This entry is the total amount of crude oil imported, in barrels per day, barrel/day. Crude oil imports field listing, 0 barrel, day, 2015 country comparison to the world, 84. Crude oil proved reserves. This entry is the stock of proved reserves of crude oil, in barrels, barrel. Proved reserves are those quantities of petroleum which, by analysis of geological and engineering data, can be estimated with a high degree of confidence to be commercially recoverable from a given date forward, from known reservoirs and under current economic conditions. Crude oil proved reserves field listing, 0 barrel, the 1st of January 2018 country comparison to the world, 99. Refined petroleum products production. This entry is the country's total output of refined petroleum products, in barrels per day, barrel/day. The discrepancy between the amount of refined petroleum products produced and/or imported and the amount consumed and/or exported is due to the omission of stock changes, refinery gains, and other complicating factors. Refined petroleum products production field listing, 0 barrel, day, 2015 country comparison to the world, 110. Refined petroleum products consumption. This entry is the country's total consumption of refined petroleum products, in barrels per day, barrel/day. The discrepancy between the amount of refined petroleum products produced and/or imported and the amount consumed and/or exported is due to the omission of stock changes, refinery gains, and other complicating factors. Refined petroleum products consumption field listing, 35,000 barrel, day, 2016 country comparison to the world, 100. Refined petroleum products exports. This entry is the country's total exports of refined petroleum products, in barrels per day, barrel/day. Refined petroleum products exports field listing, 0 barrel, day, 2015 country comparison to the world, 124. Refined petroleum products imports. This entry is the country's total imports of refined petroleum products, in barrels per day, barrel/day. Refined petroleum products imports field listing, 34,210 barrel, day, 2015 country comparison to the world, 97. Natural gas production. This entry is the total natural gas produced in cubic meters. The discrepancy between the amount of natural gas produced and or imported and the amount consumed and or exported is due to the emission of stock changes and other complicating factors. Natural gas production field listing 164.2 million cubic meters, 2017 country comparison to the world, 79. Natural gas consumption. This entry is the total natural gas consumed in cubic meters. The discrepancy between the amount of natural gas produced and or imported and the amount consumed and or exported is due to the emission of stock changes and other complicating factors. Natural gas consumption field listing 164.2 million cubic meters, 2017 country comparison to the world, 108. Natural gas exports. This entry is the total natural gas exported in cubic meters. Natural gas exports field listing 0 cubic meters, 2017 country comparison to the world, 57. Natural gas imports. This entry is the total natural gas imported in cubic meters. Natural gas imports field listing 0 cubic meters, 2017 country comparison to the world, 81. Natural gas proved reserves. This entry is the stock of proved reserves of natural gas in cubic meters. Proved reserves are those quantities of natural gas, which, by analysis of geological and engineering data, can be estimated with a high degree of confidence to be commercially recoverable from a given date forward, from known reservoirs and under current economic conditions. Natural gas proved reserves field listing 49.55 billion cubic meters, the 1st of January 2018 country comparison to the world, 62. Carbon dioxide emissions from consumption of energy. This entry is the total amount of carbon dioxide, measured in metric tons, released by burning fossil fuels in the process of producing and consuming energy. Carbon dioxide emissions from consumption of energy field listing 9.067 million mounds, 2017 country comparison to the world, 111. Hide communications. Afghanistan panel expanded telephones, fixed lines. This entry gives the total number of fixed telephone lines in use, as well as the number of subscriptions per 100 inhabitants. Telephones, fixed lines field listing, total subscriptions, 118,769, 2017 subscriptions per 100 inhabitants, less than 1, 2017 country comparison to the world, 138. Telephones, mobile cellular. This entry gives the total number of mobile cellular telephone subscribers, as well as the number of subscriptions per 100 inhabitants. Note that because of the ubiquity of mobile phone use in developed countries, the number of subscriptions per 100 inhabitants can exceed 100. Telephones, mobile cellular field listing, total subscriptions, 23,929,713, 2017 subscriptions per 100 inhabitants, 70, 2017 country comparison to the world, 52. Telephone system. This entry includes a brief general assessment of the system with details on the domestic and international components. The following terms and abbreviations are used throughout the entry: Arabsat, Arab Satellite Communications Organization, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia; Autodin, Automatic Digital Network, U.S. Department of Defense; CB, Citizens Band Mobile Radio Communications, Cellular Telephone System. The telephones in this system are radio transceivers, with each instrument having its own. More telephone system field listing, general assessment. Progress has been made on Afghanistan's first limited fixed-line telephone service and nationwide optical fiber backbone, aided by the presence of multiple providers. Mobile cellular telephone service continues to improve swiftly. The Afghan Ministry of Communications and Information claims that more than 90% of the population live in areas with access to mobile cellular services. 2017. Domestic, less than 1 per 100 for fixed-line tele density, 70 per 100 for mobile cellular. An increasing number of Afghans utilize mobile cellular phone networks. 2017. International, country code, 93. Multiple FSATs provide international and domestic voice and data connectivity. 2016. Broadcast media. This entry provides information on the approximate number of public and private TV and radio stations in a country, as well as basic information on the availability of satellite and cable TV services. Broadcast media field listing. State-owned broadcaster, Radio Television Afghanistan, RTA, operates a series of radio and television stations in Kabul and the provinces, an estimated 150 private radio stations, 50 TV stations, and about a dozen international broadcasters are available. 2018. Internet Country Code. This entry includes the two-letter codes maintained by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, in the ISO 3166 Alpha 2 list and used by the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, IANA, to establish country code top-level domains. CCTLDS, Internet Country Code Field Listing, .of, Internet users. This entry gives the total number of individuals within a country who can access the Internet at home, via any device type, computer or mobile, and connection, the percent of population with Internet access, that is, the penetration rate, helps gauge how widespread Internet use is within a country. Statistics vary from country to country and may include users who access the Internet at least several times a week to those who access it only once within a period of several months. Internet users field listing. Total, 3,531,770, July 2016 percent of population, 10.6%, July 2016 country comparison to the world, 92, broadband, fixed subscriptions. This entry gives the total number of fixed broadband subscriptions, as well as the number of subscriptions per 100 inhabitants. Fixed broadband is a physical wired connection to the Internet, for example, coaxial cable, optical fiber, at speeds equal to or greater than 256 kilobits, second, 256 kilobits per second. Broadband, fixed subscriptions field listing, total, 16,810, 2017 subscriptions per 100 inhabitants, less than 1, 2017 country comparison to the world, 156, hide, transportation, Afghanistan panel, expanded, National Air Transport System. This entry includes 4 subfields describing the air transport system of a given country in terms of both structure and performance. The first subfield, number of registered air carriers, indicates the total number of air carriers registered with the country's National Aviation Authority and issued an air operator certificate as required by the Convention on International Civil Aviation. The second subfield, inventory of registered aircraft operated by air carriers, lists the total number. More National Air Transport System field listing, number of registered air carriers, 4, 2015, inventory of registered aircraft operated by air carriers, 20, 2015, annual passenger traffic on registered air carriers, 1,929,907, 2015, annual freight traffic on registered air carriers, 33,102,038 Mount Gay M, 2015. Civil Aircraft Registration Country Code Prefix. This entry provides the 1 or 2 character alphanumeric code indicating the nationality of civil aircraft. Article 20 of the Convention on International Civil Aviation, Chicago Convention, signed in 1944, requires that all aircraft engaged in international air navigation bear appropriate nationality marks. The aircraft registration number consists of 2 parts. A prefix consisting of a 1 or 2 character alphanumeric code indicating nationality and a registration suffix of 1 to f. More Civil Aircraft Registration Country Code Prefix Field Listing, YA, 2016. Airports. This entry gives the total number of airports or airfields recognizable from the air. The runways may be paved, concrete or asphalt surfaces, or unpaved, grass, earth, sand, or gravel surfaces, and may include closed or abandoned installations. Airports or airfields that are no longer recognizable, overgrown, no facilities, etc., are not included. Note that not all airports have accommodations for refueling, maintenance, or air traffic control. Airports field listing, 43, 2016, country comparison to the world, 99. Airports, with paved runways. This entry gives the total number of airports with paved runways, concrete or asphalt surfaces, by length. For airports with more than 1 runway, only the longest runway is included according to the following 5 groups. 1. over 3,047 meters, over 10,000 feet, 2, 2,438 to 3,047 meters, 8,000 to 10,000 feet, 3, 1,524 to 2,437 meters, 5,000 to 8,000 feet, 4, 914 to 1,523 meters, 3,000 to 5,000 feet, and 5, under 914 meters, under 3,000 feet. Only airports with usable runways are included in this listing, not all. More airports, with paved runways field listing, total, 25, 2017, over 3,047 meters, 4, 2017, 2,438 to 3,047 meters, 4, 2017, 1,524 to 2,437 meters, 14, 2017, 914 to 1,523 meters, 2, 2017, under 914 meters, 1, 2017, airports, with unpaved runways. This entry gives the total number of airports with unpaved runways, grass, dirt, sand, or gravel surfaces, by length. For airports with more than one runway, only the longest runway is included according to the following 5 groups. 1. Over 3,047 meters, over 10,000 feet. 2. 2,438 to 3,047 meters, 8,000 to 10,000 feet. 3. 1,524 to 2,437 meters, 5,000 to 8,000 feet. 4. 914 to 1,523 meters, 3,000 to 5,000 feet, and 5, under 914 meters, under 3,000 feet. Only airports with usable runways are included in this listing. More airports, with unpaved runways field listing, total, 18, 2016, 2,438 to 3,047 meters, 1, 2016, 1,524 to 2,437 meters, 8, 2016, 914 to 1,523 meters, 4, 2016, under 914 meters, 5, 2016. Heliports. This entry gives the total number of heliports with hard surface runways, helipads, or landing areas that support routine sustained helicopter operations exclusively and have support facilities including one or more of the following facilities: lighting, fuel, passenger handling, or maintenance. It includes former airports used exclusively for helicopter operations but excludes heliports limited to day operations and natural clearings that could support helicopter landings and takeoffs. Heliports field listing, 9, 2013, pipelines. This entry gives the lengths and types of pipelines for transporting products like natural gas, crude oil, or petroleum products. Pipelines field listing, 466 kilometers gas, 2013. Roadways. This entry gives the total length of the road network and includes the length of the paved and unpaved portions. Roadways field listing, total, 42,150 kilometers, 2006. Paved, 12,350 kilometers, 2006. Unpaved, 29,800 kilometers, 2006. Country comparison to the world, 86. Waterways. This entry gives the total length of navigable rivers, canals, and other inland bodies of water. Waterways field listing, 1,200 kilometers, chiefly in area, which handles vessels up to 500 dwt, 2011. Country comparison to the world, 58. Ports and terminals. This entry lists major ports and terminals primarily on the basis of the amount of cargo tonnage shipped through the facilities on an annual basis. In some instances, the number of containers handled or ship visits were also considered. Most ports service multiple classes of vessels including bulk carriers, dry and liquid, break bulk cargoes, goods loaded individually in bags, boxes, crates, or drums, sometimes palletized, containers, roll-on/roll-off, and passenger ships. The listing More ports and terminals field listing, River Port, Khairabad, Shirley Khan, Hyde, Military and Security, Afghanistan Panel, Expanded, military expenditures. This entry gives spending on defense programs for the most recent year available as a percent of gross domestic product, GDP. The GDP is calculated on an exchange rate basis, that is, not in terms of purchasing power parity. PPP. For countries with no military forces, this figure can include expenditures on public security and police. Military expenditures field listing, 0.89% of GDP, 2016, 0.99% of GDP, 2015, 1.33% of GDP, 2014, country comparison to the world. 126. Military branches. This entry lists the service branches subordinate to defense ministries or the equivalent, typically ground, naval, air, and marine forces. Military branches field listing, Afghan National Defense and Security Forces, ANSF, comprised of military, police, and other security elements. Afghan National Army, includes Afghan Air Force, Afghan National Police, Afghan Local Police, and the National Directorate of Security. 2017, Military Service Age and Obligation. This entry gives the required ages for voluntary or conscript military service and the length of service obligation. Military Service Age and Obligation field listing. 18 is the legal minimum age for voluntary military service, no conscription. 2017, Hide, Terrorism, Afghanistan Panel, Expanded, Terrorist Groups, Home-Based. This entry provides information on the U.S. State Department's designated foreign terrorist organizations headquartered in a specific country, which may or may not be a group's country of origin. Details on each organization's aims and areas of operation are provided. Terrorist Groups, Home-Based Field Listing, Al-Qaeda, AC. Aims, eject Western influence from the Islamic world, unite the worldwide Muslim community, overthrow governments perceived as un-Islamic, and ultimately, establish a pan-Islamic caliphate under a strict Salafi Muslim interpretation of Sharia. Areas of operation, maintains established networks and a long-time operational presence in Afghanistan, especially in the south, northwest, and northeast near the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. April 2018, Islamic Jihad Union, aims, drive NATO forces out of Afghanistan and destabilize the country, overthrow the government of Uzbekistan. Areas of operation, conducts attacks in collaboration with other extremist groups, including the Taliban, against NATO and Afghan forces across the country, especially in the northern and eastern Paktika, Paktia, and Nangarhar provinces. April 2018, Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, IMU, aims, enhance its networks and secure territory in Afghanistan to establish a secure presence from which it can pursue its historic goal of establishing an Islamic state in the Fergana Valley, a fertile valley spread across eastern Uzbekistan, southern Kyrgyzstan, and northern Tajikistan. Areas of operation, operates mostly in the north along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, with its heaviest presence in Badakhshan province, where IMU has operated paramilitary training camps and bases. Note: the IMU is fractured and mostly supports ISIS-K, although some members have continued working with the Taliban. April 2018, Islamic State of Iraq and Ash-Sham Khorasan, ISIS-K. Aims, establish an Islamic caliphate in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and parts of Central Asia, counter Westerners and Shia Muslims. Areas of operation, stronghold in Nangarhar province near the Afghanistan-Pakistan border and operating in Kunar, Lagman, Jowzjan provinces with pockets of support throughout Afghanistan. Note: recruits from among the local population, Central Asian extremists in Afghanistan, and other militant groups, such as Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, the Afghan Taliban, and the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan. April 2018, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP. Aims, drive foreign troops from Afghanistan, remove Pakistani forces from Pakistan's federally administered tribal areas, FATA, and, ultimately, overthrow the Pakistan government to implement TTP's strict interpretation of Sharia. Areas of operation, headquartered in several eastern Afghanistan provinces near the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, operates primarily along the northeastern Afghanistan-Pakistan border, especially in Kunar and Paktika provinces, where TTP has established sanctuaries. April 2018, terrorist groups, foreign-based. This entry provides information on the U.S. State Department's designated foreign terrorist organizations operating in countries other than where a particular group is headquartered. Details on each organization's aims and areas of operation are provided. Terrorist groups, foreign-based field listing, Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent, AQIS. Aims, establish an Islamic caliphate in the Indian subcontinent. Areas of operation: heaviest presence is in Afghanistan, especially in the eastern and southern regions, where most of the Afghan-based leaders are located. Note: targets primarily Afghan military and security personnel and U.S. interests. April 2018, Haqqani Taliban Network, HQN. Aims: expel U.S. and coalition forces and replace the Afghan government with an Islamic state operating according to a strict Salafi Muslim interpretation of Sharia under the Afghan Taliban. Areas of operation: stages attacks from Kuram and North Waziristan Agency in Pakistan's federally administered tribal areas, FATA, across from Afghanistan's southeastern border, operational throughout the country, especially in Kabul and Paktia and Khost provinces. Note: plays a leading role in planning and executing high-profile attacks against Afghan personnel, NATO's Resolute Support Mission, U.S. and coalition forces, and other U.S. and Western interests. April 2018, Harakat al-Jihad-i-Islami, HUJI. Aims: implement Sharia in Afghanistan, enhance its networks and drive foreign troops from Afghanistan. Areas of operation: operations throughout Afghanistan, targeting primarily Afghan government personnel and coalition forces. April 2018, Harakat al-Mujahideen, HUM. Aims: enhance its networks and paramilitary training in Afghanistan and, ultimately, incorporate Kashmir into Pakistan, establish an Islamic State in Kashmir. Areas of operation: maintains paramilitary training camps in eastern Afghanistan. April 2018, Shi Mohammed, Jum. Aims: participate in the insurgency against Afghan and international forces to support a Taliban return to power in Afghanistan and annex the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir to Pakistan. Areas of operation: historically operated in Afghanistan's eastern provinces. April 2018, Jaish al-Adl. Aims: enhance its operational networks and capabilities for staging cross-border attacks into Pakistan and Iran. Areas of operation: operational in the Greater Balochistan area, where fighters stage attacks targeting Shia Muslims in Iran and Pakistan. Note: formerly known as Jundla. April 2018, Lashkar-i-Jangvi, LJ. Aims: enhance its networks and paramilitary training in Afghanistan, exterminate Shia Muslims, rid the Afghanistan-Pakistan region of Western influence. Areas of operation: headquartered in the east, operates paramilitary training camps near the Afghanistan-Pakistan border across from the central area of Pakistan's federally administered tribal areas, FATA, region. Operatives conduct operations inside Afghanistan. April 2018, Lashkar-e-Taiba, LT. Aims: annex the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir to Pakistan and foment Islamic insurgency in India, attack Western, Indian, and Afghan interests in Afghanistan, support the Taliban's return to power, enhance its recruitment networks and paramilitary training in Afghanistan, and, ultimately, install Islamic rule throughout South Asia. Areas of operation: targets coalition forces and Western interests throughout the country, maintains several facilities, such as paramilitary training camps, medical clinics serving locals, and schools for youths, targets Pashtun youth for recruitment administered tribal areas, FATA, region. Operatives conduct operations inside Afghanistan. April 2018, Hyde, Transnational Issues, Afghanistan Panel, Expanded. Disputes, International. This entry includes a wide variety of situations that range from traditional bilateral boundary disputes to unilateral claims of one sort or another. Information regarding disputes over international terrestrial and maritime boundaries has been reviewed by the U.S. Department of State. References to other situations involving borders or frontiers may also be included, such as resource disputes, geopolitical questions, or irredentist issues. However, inclusion does not necessarily constitute. More disputes. International field listing. Afghan, coalition, and Pakistan military meet periodically to clarify the alignment of the boundary on the ground and on maps, and since 2014 have met to discuss collaboration on the Taliban insurgency and counter-terrorism efforts. Afghan and Iranian commissioners have discussed boundary monument densification and reserve Iran protests. Afghanistan's restricting flow of dammed Helmand River tributaries during drought. Pakistan has sent troops across and built fences along some remote tribal areas of its treaty-defined Durand Line border with Afghanistan, which serve as bases for foreign terrorists and other illegal activities. Russia remains concerned about the smuggling of poppy derivatives from Afghanistan through Central Asian countries. Refugees and internally displaced persons. This entry includes those persons residing in a country as refugees, internally displaced persons, IDPs, or stateless persons. Each country's refugee entry includes only countries of origin that are the source of refugee populations of 5,000 or more. The definition of a refugee according to a UN convention is a person who is outside her country of nationality or habitual residence, has a well-founded fear of persecution because of her race, religion, nationality, membership in a. More refugees and internally displaced persons field listing. Refugees, country of origin, 59,737, Pakistan, 2016, IDPs, 1.286 million, mostly Pashtuns and Kukis displaced in the south and west due to natural disasters and political instability, 2017. Illicit drugs. This entry gives information on the 5 categories of illicit drugs: narcotics, stimulants, depressants, sedatives, hallucinogens, and cannabis. These categories include many drugs legally produced and prescribed by doctors as well as those illegally produced and sold outside of medical channels. Cannabis sativa, is the common hemp plant, which provides hallucinogens with some sedative properties, and includes marijuana, pot, Acapulco gold, grass, reefer, tetrahydroca. More illicit drugs field listing. World's largest producer of opium, poppy cultivation increased 63%, to 328,304 hectares in 2017, while eradication increased slightly. It still remains well below levels achieved in 2015. The 2017 crop yielded an estimated 9,000 mount of raw opium, 88% increase over 2016. The Taliban and other anti-government groups participate in and profit from the opiate trade, which is a key source of revenue for the Taliban inside Afghanistan. Widespread corruption and instability impede counter-drug efforts. Most of the heroin consumed in Europe and Eurasia is derived from Afghan opium. Afghanistan is also struggling to respond to a burgeoning domestic opiate addiction problem. A 2015 National Drug Use Survey found that roughly 11% of the population tested positive for one or more illicit drugs. Vulnerable to drug money laundering through informal financial networks, illicit cultivation of cannabis and regional source of hashish, 2018.